Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super Fantify. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mecha-Ude Mechanical Arms, Season 1, Episode 11. Great episode, a lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up where the last episode left off with the whole Hikaru situation, and it did not play out the way I thought it would. I mean, metaphorically speaking, it did. Like, I knew what the end result was going to be about trying to bring Hikaru back, but the journey there was not fully what I thought it was. Because if you didn't hear my discussion last episode, if you're familiar with season 2 of Mob Psycho, Mob kind of has this like alternate reality thing he kind of lives through at one point in time. This is like episode 5 it happens of season 2, that I kind of figured like something like that might end up happening to Hikaru. It's a thing of, oh, this is what his life would be like if he didn't go to rescue Alma. But to be fair, it's like the situations are different. Like, yes, everything with Aki and Alma was going down that night and Hikaru was on his bike seeing all that, but it wasn't until the next day or whatever that he ended up finding Alma. It was like during school hours, like bright day, or it might have been after school, but you get the point I was making. Now, part of me wonders, like, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, well, actually, it could be a thing of, like, metaphorically speaking, of it was almost him kind of not taking that leap in this regard. Like, I don't know if that's, because those scenes might be actually where it's like, no, like, we didn't get to see it, but that might have been the thing. Because even though it's like all that did kind of go down and Hikaru wasn't home at the time, but I'm curious if, like, are we going to find, like, did he actually go back home and he kept stressing about it and then he was going to go out, but he didn't take that step? You know, the next day he ultimately did. I wonder if that's what that is, or none of that did happen, and it is almost like this afterlife ultimate alternative history that was kind of happening. Maybe, I don't know. Like, I feel like you could interpret that anyway. I think it's left open ended to be interpretive. Yeah, that actually did happen that night for Hikaru, but he just didn't go out. And this is him debating whether to go or not, and this time around he's taking that step forward. Or, like I said, it's just a giant metaphor for him kind of walking away, not taking that step. Like, he eventually still, because he still took that step regardless when it came to Alma and everything. Like I said, it's just the following day rather than that night. So either way, in the aftermath of all that, it's like we jump back to, cut over to the June situation, because basically after Fist basically broke free after kind of being reborn with Aldera's power, like, they got caught in like a collapsing of buildings and stuff, and now June and the entire squad are stuck. So it's like, what do we do? If we try to bust out of here, it could cause a cave-in. But June ask about Twos, and what's home dude's name? Is it like Kazuma or something? The guy that would always fight with Aki. It's like let me find out, like, what are their Mecha-Udes really all about? Hers is named Scythe, and she has a power to locate light. The other one, I forgot his name, who is able to, he's super intelligent, but it's like, I don't actually know his ability. So it's like, right, unshackle them and release them, and then Twos does hers, and the question becomes like, what's it like? Owner was like, oh, it must be cool and awesome like her. It must be cool headed and, you know, stoic like Twos. But it's like, no, it's got a very like her. I love later on she's like, don't call me Psych, don't call me a weird name. My name's Ayumi. But it's like she. It's interesting, too, because she's like, oh, my God, what? 3 decades have passed. Wait, I'm an old lady now? She was, like, feeling, because she's like, oh, I can finally speak again. She even told Twos later on, it's like, yo, I don't have any beef with you. It's not like, yeah, I couldn't talk and stuff, but you weren't the one that captured me, so I don't have that beef with you. And I think it's interesting, because she was like, oh, but your, like, eyelashes or I think she said, like, your eyelashes look really good, and Twos kind of got caught off guard. But, yeah, they end up releasing the other one as well, and he ends up like kind of reading Owner's mind as well as Scythe's or Ayumi's, just to get a lay of the land. So it's like, okay, cool. And he's smart enough to calculate a plan. And so basically have Twos keep firing and build up momentum, have Oner and his kind of build up a shield, whereas like the kids will hold them down so that when the time comes, let them go. She pushes home dude forward with his Mecha-Ude and he can bust his way through. It's interesting too when you find out he's like, you've been utilizing me as a sword. That's not my style. I'm really more of a punch. And I was like, that's interesting. That's why you've always been limited, because you've always been going about it, because you've never been playing to your Mecha-Ude strength. You've always been going about it your way. I mean, that's the whole point of like, they've been dominating the Mecha-Udes by like, oh, you're going to go the way I want you to, never fully utilizing what they're capable of, because you never bothered being partners with them. They were just tools. They were never like, you know, work in conjunction with them like you would have got more out of them. So I just think that's such a fascinating situation. But yeah, they were luckily able to bust out of there. But June decides, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go into Hikaru. But he was about to say like, that's none of your business where I'm going, but then he goes like, right, I'm being stupid, because that prior to them getting out, June didn't really have a part to play initially. He's like, oh, I guess I'm forced to sit out. But Hondu was like, no, you're going to be like the cornerstone of this. He's like, you're the one that came up, you're the one that, looking at the situation, made the decision to have me and Scythe/Ayumi like get unshackled, and it's like, you have the smarts and the leadership capabilities in this moment. You're the one we're gonna lead the timing up to, and he succeeded in that. And then in this moment, it's kind of like, yeah, I need to get back to Hikaru, but he's also at the same time like, no, I can't do this on my own. I'm gonna need others' help. So he brings them along, and I love that Hikaru's friend, she's like so excited. I was like, I gotta go to Hikaru. She's like, because she's thinking that the great romantic comedy is playing out before her. But obviously, sadly, Aki and June get there and find, you know, Hikaru's pulse is 0. But June decides like, right, Aki, I'm gonna need your help, and he plans on bringing Hikaru back. It's like, right, using, I always Scephalus. I'm going to butcher this thing's name. What used to be Ouroboros. It's like, we're going to utilize that. That thing was meant to counteract June's illness, and he's asking his brother, can we use it to, like, it can control the flow of Abitrium. Can we flow Abitrium into Hikaru and bring him back? But his brother's like, no. Like, I mean, it wasn't designed for that. It was meant to heal you, but also, like, the amount of Abitrium it would take is, like, a vast amount that's just too much. And also, if you do this, it could break Ouroboros and make it so that you can never utilize it again, and we wouldn't be able to rebuild it. But for June, it's like, I don't care, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna bring him back, you know. And you know, ultimately it was like Togo and June's brother. Togo's like, are you sure about this? He was like, at the end of the day, this is my brother's decision. Like, my brother is able to stand on his own 2 feet comfortably without my help. But like, the fact is that he's willing to go this far. To him, it just shows how far his brother's going. And it's like, I can't keep underestimating my brother. So basically, Hikaru, June prepares for all of this, and there are people around that are kind of reluctant, like, oh, but why should we really do this? But it's like, well, one of the people that was talking was someone from the Kagami company, but June was coming from the perspective of like, yeah, but like, are you going to be a coward in this moment? Because it's like, Hikaru there was no reason for Hikaru to fight, but he chose to, and it got him killed. But he still got up time and time again. And it's like, I know he's so annoying, and he always like overstepped me, and it's like, I don't like that. I need to bring him back so I can punch him in the face, or not punch him in the face, but just punch him, because it's like, he's coming at him like a rival. There's this frenemy situation that they've got going on. At the time, he would never admit it, but he eventually admits it later on, where he's like, please help me bring my friend back. Which I'm like, oh, that's sweet, because him and Aki share that sentiment, where Aki's just like, because he's like, because June's like, oh, I thought your normal tactic would be like hitting him and stuff like that. And I think one of the Mecha-Udes is kind of like, no, that's not, like, don't underestimate Aki. It's like, yeah, she would do that with kind of like, they were trying to defend her a little bit, but for Aki, it's just like, I just want to help my friend. I was like, that's really sweet. You know, so hearing that, you know, finding out, like, right, Hikaru's determination, hearing how June feels about all of this, is like, right, we've got to bring him back. It's the only way that's going to make this right. Plus, like, you know, I need him back so I can, like, surpass him. And everyone helps out. Like, everyone from Kagami, everyone from ARMS, even the guy that has beef with, like, you know, Aki and stuff. And Two's is like, oh, even you? He's like, come on, I'm an adult. I can't let, you know, be outshined by some brat. So everyone's giving their energy to Hikaru. And he ends up in this white, empty space. and he hears people kind of reaching out to him. He's kind of getting pushed by like both Aki and June, and for him it's still the thing of like they're dragging him along because eventually they're all putting their effort forward, but it's not making enough of a difference until later on it's like, wait, we need to stick closer to each other, like we need to bunch up, and that'll like increase the flow of Abitrium and the gathering of Abitrium, and it works. But like June and Aki's energy kind of comes and pulls him along, but he's like, no, you guys are too fast for me. He's like, I just don't know what to do. I'm kind of directionless. Like, I kind of like, what else is there for me? I'm kind of not anyone special, but for him, it's like, but I'd like to take that first step, because he's thinking about everything he's been through with Aki, with Alma, with June. There's just everything that he's been through, and it's like whatever I can do, I want to do it. I want to help. I want to like even if I'm not sure, all I can do is take that one step, then that's what I'll do. Kind of take things one step at a time and not get so caught up on like letting the fear of like I can't do anything, like where am I going to go, like letting that fear stop you from moving forward, even the tiniest bit, even taking that first step. And that's where I'm like, oh, it all comes together so beautifully. So he wants to reach out, especially because he thinks back to like his time of, like I said, with Alma too, where it's like he reached out then, took a first step, and he's taking that first step again, not being afraid to take that first step, regardless of his directionlessness. So I thought that was beautiful. And that all obviously works so beautifully in conjunction with like all that ties in thematically, and just the nature of and the story of this episode flows and fits naturally with what the ending, like the actual ending of the episode, the show's endings are. Where it's like, oh, like especially because like the light in like Hikaru's hand, it's like, well, it's the energy from everyone's Abitrium flowing into him and stuff. And then like the people who are dragging him along are June and Hikaru. I mean, Aki and June, who are the same people, the only other characters in the outro besides Hikaru. So it was like, oh, just like I said, it just kind of, and it's like to go from this episode into the ending makes you see that even more so. Once again, the ending's so like beautiful, like there's like this etherealness to it. It's just like the vocals, and then it like the instrumentals for the like the beat and instrumentals for the song, and just like the imagery on screen during the outro too. It all like it I've said this since like earlier on in the season. It fills you with this wellness of like there's something beautifully sad about that song, so at the same time this all happens, I guess with everything going on, Fist, I thought he was making his way over because he sensed what was going on with Hikaru, which maybe one and the same, but he rushed over as Yakumo's body is like on its last leg. It's deteriorating. So he dashes over and he grabs June because he needs a better host. And it's like, cool. I mean, I wonder if June's body being in the situation that it's in, because he has an illness, I'm wondering if that would affect Fist at all. But at the very least, it might be also because like at the time he's pumping all that Abitrium into, and he's got his Mecha-Ude, it's recovering him enough that puts his body in a good enough state for Fist to come over and possess him. He's like, yes, like the body of a Kagami is great, and he's like, with this new body, I can basically do what I need to, but first I need to stomp you into the ground. And he turns his attention towards Alma. So kind of what's happening with Fist and June, it's happened with Alma and Hikaru. Like, I don't know if like they've perfectly fused or like their synchronizations maybe on a whole other level, because the thing that connected them, like they were always connected, but it's still the thing of they were separated by the hoodie. So I figured that was going to happen in case. I thought like, because I didn't realize Alma was out of it as well. It makes sense. What happens to Alma, what happens to Hikaru affects Alma. It makes sense. But I just didn't ever think about that. So like, that's why I was like, oh, we didn't hear anything from Alma. It's like, well, because he's in the state that he's in because of Hikaru's state. So, but yeah, they've kind of fused together. So I'm like, I'm curious like how that operates and what that, like, are they like melded as one mind? Like, are they still like two separate minds, obviously occupying the body, kind of working as one in tandem, like what the aftermath of that looks like? Because The next episode should be the season finale. Feels like we're setting that up with the context of the episode itself, but also, like I said, early on I looked into it, and there's only supposed to be 12 episodes for the season. So I'll say finale because this could be a one and done. Like I said, there's so much story to pull from, so I doubt it could be, but I feel like I guess it just depends on a lot of factors, but it feels like there's a lot more story that can be told. So I'm currently looking at this like the next episode is the season finale, not like a finale, but we'll have to wait to see. So I'm curious to see how this all plays out, and also like, does Alma end up destroying Fist as, sadly, brother versus brother, which is interesting considering it's like, well, Fist versus Alma. And even though June and Hikaru are not brothers, it's still like, right, the younger brother, the Kagami family versus Hikaru, who kind of inhabited, he's kind of more like Yakumo, even though he's not a Kagami, which obviously Fist was just in Yakumo's deceased body, but now he moved on to like, because like I think that's the parallel too, because like Yakumo was the younger brother, if I remember correctly. So it's just there's so many different parallels of like the clash that's about to happen now, like the layers to like how deep it can run on so many different levels with these characters. So I'm excited to see how this all plays out, and like will Fist end up dying or being destroyed, or I don't know if Alma will be able to convince his brother otherwise. It might be a thing of he might not be destroyed, but we might have to kind of basically incapacitate you for a while and kind of put you into dormant sleep until this is all resolved, and find a way to separate him from June. And like I said, June's body being in the state that it's in, how long, considering all the power that's flowing through him, he can probably compensate for the fact that June's body might be in a more weakened state just because of his natural illness. So, like I said, a lot of questions. It's going to be interesting to see how the next episode resolves all of this, how it all plays out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.